Welcome. This is the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. This is where you'll learn strategies to help you achieve lifetime financial freedom through real estate investment. Your host, Rod Khleif, has owned over 2,000 homes and apartments, and he brings experts in all aspects of real estate investment and management onto the show. Now, here's your host, Rod Khleif.
I want to tell you guys my new website is finally up. It's rodkhleif.com. That's rodkhleif.com. And I've got a ton of videos on there that I know you'll enjoy. And if you haven't got my book yet, it's titled How to Create Lifetime Cash Flow Through Multifamily Properties. There's a direct download for the book on my website. You know, at some point, I'm going to be putting it on Amazon and charging for it, but you can get it for free right now via my website. Again, that's rodkhleif.com, KHLEIF.com. All right, let's get to it. Welcome to another edition of How to Build Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Rod Khleif, and I'm thrilled you're here. And we are going to get a ton of value from the gentleman we're interviewing today. His name is Jojn Pero. He's been in the real estate game, he and his wife, for about 16 years and has built up a portfolio on his own, he and his wife, of 400-plus units, $14.5 million portfolio, and we are going to dig into how he did it because he didn't start where he's at today. Jojn, thanks for being on the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me, Rod.
Absolutely. So let's start with how you started. Let's go back to a lot of people listening haven't bought their first property yet, so let's talk to how you started. Did you start in single family, or how did you get going?
Our first property, which we still own, was a duplex. We purchased that in the summer of 2001. Bought it, a little background to the story, had graduated college in 1999, grew up, didn't learn a whole lot about money or investing or anything else. When graduated college,
nobody does. They don't teach you that in school. It's the dumbest thing ever.
Sure.
It makes me crazy. By the way, for those of you listening, he's in Erie, Pennsylvania. So that's just to give some background. I should have asked you that first. But please continue. Yep. Duplex.
Sure. So I had an internship with a financial planning company, and I became fascinated because I saw these high-income earners, doctors, lawyers, business people that had very little net worth. And I saw school teachers making $50,000 a year that had a net worth in the millions. And I just kept asking questions to the people I was working under, and they said, "Oh, well, they own real estate. They own real estate." So I caught onto that pretty quick and fell in love. Said, I have to start buying real estate. So talked to everybody I knew, read every book I could, and then saved up my first down payment. And then in 2001, we bought our first property before we were married. So,
and you bought a duplex, which was brilliant. Which is, you guys hear me tell you all the time. That's residential multifamily, residential financing, 30-year fixed, and you still own it because it's got a great loan on it, right?
Yep,
yeah,
sure do. And it's a great property. It's nearly always full. So,
right.
Has a soft spot in my heart. But we sort of, even though we grew fast, we grew very, what felt like slow and methodical. We both ended up with careers in medical sales, and we saved one person's salary, invested that into building a real estate business, and we lived off the other person's salary. So up until 2012, we had day jobs, and we funneled all of that extra income into building our real estate portfolio until it was time to walk away from the corporate job, which was.
And so
really
you
both
had jobs. You did this on the side for, I guess that you started in 2001, so 11 years. You did this on the side. What, a duplex at a time? How many units did you have in 2012 when you decided to pack it in for the good life?
Sure. So in 2012, we sold some property. We were near 300 units, but we sold off some units and 1031 exchanged those into higher value units. And so we were right around 300 units.
So you did 300 units on the side over 11 years with both of you in full-time jobs.
Yep.
Okay, guys, I hope you heard that. Okay, please, I want to put an exclamation mark on that. That's astounding. And we're going to talk about management because I know you self-manage. So you did that all yourself on the side. Brilliant. I mean, I love it, and I hope those of you listening that have jobs are inspired. This is what's possible. Good for you. So you in 2012, did you both quit your jobs, or did just one of you, or how'd you work that?
Well, she had actually left her job in 2010. We had our second child in 2008, and So she left a few years earlier, but 2012
Wow.
is when I finally pulled the trigger and quote unquote retired.
Fantastic. Oh, that's awesome. How inspiring. So now I know you're at 400 plus units now, and so let's talk about the progression. You bought a duplex. What'd you buy after that? How did you progress? How did you get into bigger properties? I want to talk about that first.
Sure. So the next year we purchased a 2-unit and a 4-unit. The year after that, I think it was another 4-unit, then 7 units. And then in 2005, I saw an ad in the paper that said, local investor retiring must sell rental properties. And so I called the number, met with this gentleman. His name was Dick. Turned out to be one of the best mentors I ever had. He sold me 56 units. So we acquired 23 units from 2001 to the summer of 2005. Met this gentleman, said, look, I'll sell you 56 units. It was broke down to about 10 different buildings. He said, it was a $1.1 million sale. You come up with 10% down, I'll finance the rest. And went from there. So that was the first.
Now I want to stop right there for a minute, because you just gave incredible value to my listeners. Okay, guys, tons of value here, because first of all, let's talk about where that deal came from. It came from a newspaper. Okay, the best deals you can get are from retirees, from mom and pops that own multiple units. And what is their mode of communication? They don't go online. They're not on Facebook. They're not, most of them. How do they know how to market? They don't know how to market on Google AdWords. They know how to market in the newspaper. And people have discounted the value of the newspaper. But I'm telling you guys, there are incredible opportunities by using the newspaper. So there's a fabulous example. And the other incredible example here is you realize the value of this guy's knowledge, and he became a mentor for you. And I'm sure he's, if he's still around, that you've got an incredible relationship, and that's fantastic. And you bought all his properties, he carried them, and which is not a difficult conversation to have. It's not a difficult thing to convince a seller to carry if they're retired, because they're just going to put the money in the bank at 1%, and you can offer so much more. And this gentleman obviously was smart enough to realize that. You probably didn't have to sell him. He basically told you how he was. Correct me if I'm wrong. He told you what he was willing to do.
Absolutely. Looking back on it, I think he definitely guided that deal, and he ultimately. So these were they were great properties. They still are great properties. But they weren't his best properties. I ended up buying his best properties when I retired in 2012. So
no kidding.
The long-time mentor relationship that turned into, and that to me speaks to the value of taking care of your investors. I mean, this guy held paper for me, always on time with his mortgage payment. I don't care how good or bad of a month we're having. Just
no question. No matter what's happening, you run that check to him. Because and guys, listen, this is very, very important. Whenever you have a seller finance deal like this, it can turn into so much more. This is a great example. In fact, they can become a lender for you. Okay, I just interviewed somebody else, and that's what they did. They turned their sellers into lenders. If they, you develop that trust, and you come at it from a place of integrity, and I will hunt you down if you take advantage of an old person. You can create a win-win. You don't have to be disintegrous and try to take advantage of them. You can create win-wins, and if you value that relationship for what it is, this is a perfect example of what it can manifest into. And like you said, no matter what, you run that payment to them, and look. So how many units have you gotten total from this mentor?
I ended up buying his whole portfolio, which was a total of 128 units.
Wow.
So yeah, and some of he had to show me the way on some of the deals or some of the properties. I was used to some of these lower to middle income value add properties, and he had some really nice high end townhomes.
Wow.
A little bit different model than I was accustomed to at the time, but I'm so thankful and grateful that he showed me and taught me that end of the business as well. So for me, it provides a nice diversification of the portfolio, but also just a nice, a nice progression of, going from, older properties, grade, C and B minus up to, maybe a, a B, B plus. I mean,
Sure.
That's a big step. And that's the type of property, you pass on to your grandkids, as opposed to something you just want to sell off when you retire. So
Right. So is this guy still around, or you still have a relationship with him?
So he's definitely retired, and I don't see him as much as I'd like to. But we talk occasionally now, and I'll still, once a month, I still email him or text him and say, hey, we need to get together for coffee.
Good.
But he's off kind of exploring the world and focusing on his own interests, and he still gets a monthly check from me. But yeah, just any mentor I've ever had, I mean, that's the type of relationship. I think they've been around the block 100 times, and you have to take the advice that they give you, and even just their input on the certain scenarios and experiences you're facing. They can be a wealth of knowledge, and just
no question.
Even
on the management side and everything in between, and I know that Jason, you're looking at getting into syndications, and that could be a great great source for you as well, a lending source or an investment source. But fantastic story, and you're at 400 units now. I know you self-manage. I'd like to dig into your experience managing your own properties. Let's talk about how you learned that business. So obviously you started with a duplex, so you kind of grew into it. With just a few units a year at first. Can you speak to the progression of your knowledge in that business and how you honed it? Okay.
Sure. I think initially, we read every book that was out there. Property Management for Dummies and Landlording 101. All the books, but nothing teaches you better than real world experience. Mistakes, successes, things like that. So my wife and I, even though we both had our jobs, we still. Initially, we went in and cleaned our own apartments. We did the painting, those things. Those early.
I remember
years.
those days. Yep.
Yeah, and we found our own tenants. But when I transitioned from 23 units to all of a sudden adding 56 more, so we were at 79 apartments. A maintenance guy came with that acquisition, and with that maintenance guy, there was also an in-house property manager at one of the properties. And so what I learned there was that, I can, I may make less money, but I have a lot more time on my hands now to go find more deals or to try and run a successful business. So it was important to me to understand what it takes to run a successful property management company or manage your own property successfully. So when you're hiring people and you're building your team, no one's going to pull one over on you. You might recognize your strengths and weaknesses and try to hire the right people, but you have to know what goes into the business to really understand if there's a shortcoming. If your revenue's down, well, why is it? Is the property manager not, are they not executing properly? Or if your maintenance costs are up, I mean, you can really, as you grow your business, really pinpoint certain aspects that you can improve on or what's working when you've done it yourself and can analyze.
You have to do it yourself, and otherwise you don't know what you don't know. And that's why I tell people, if you haven't managed before, go ahead and hire a property manager. If you're not, unless you're in a duplex or something like that, if it's less than 10 units, you can certainly handle it yourself, and you'll learn through hard knocks, and that's not a bad way to learn. But if you get into a larger property, hire a property management company, study what they do, learn the business, and then self-manage. And a lot of people think self-management means that you're out there collecting checks and fixing toilets. You're not. You're hiring the people to do that, because that's really what a property management company does when you've got some scale, is they're going to hire the resources. They're really just, for all practical purposes, they're kind of the supervisor. And so, it's crazy, in my opinion, to outsource it. But that's, some people have successfully done it, and they feel like it gives them more time to find deals, and maybe there's some validity to that. But so tell me some horror stories. Tell me some seminars that you had in the property management arena, and I'd love to hear that.
Sure. I think the biggest horror stories and the things that always kept me up at night was, either tenant complaints.
Right.
You try your best to run a business and treat people right, and you're providing quality housing and trying to give people a nice place to live. And if somebody has a valid complaint, that's it. And generally speaking, that's kind of a horror story for me.
Okay.
But it comes down to, any specific horror stories that I'll take ownership of. All
right.
Comes down to hiring the wrong employee for the wrong role. They might be wonderful, people on their own right, but a bad fit for the company. And so a horror story for me was just not being an effective manager or hiring of the right people.
Oh, and that's always the horror story. I mean, you are as good as the people you bring on, and I've hired hundreds and made lots of mistakes, and it's not a mistake in the person; it's a mistake in my evaluation of their strengths. And you always have to put people to their strengths, and so I totally get what you're saying. And well, let me dig in a little further. What have you learned? And obviously, you value your residents. I could just tell by the way you responded to that, which guys is critical. If you think you can short circuit and beat your people up that are in these properties to try to save a few dollars, that's just such a huge mistake. Because obviously, Jason, you've learned the value or the cost associated with turnovers, and you do everything you can to mitigate those. Correct?
Correct. I mean,
right.
I'd rather discount a rent by $25 if that means keeping a good tenant for another 5 years, as
Absolutely.
opposed to trying to nickel and dime somebody, and then you're just potentially the quality of your tenant decreases because you have turnover after turnover, and there's so much missed revenue, lost revenue, the cost associated with just cleaning and painting and getting that apartment back up to an acceptable standard. It's ridiculous how expensive that is.
Oh, believe me. And a lot of people don't realize that. They think, I'm going to squeeze every last penny out of this particular property, and try to push market rents, and that's such a big mistake because turnover will kill you. And so, keeping the tenants happy, and being reasonable with rents and not cranking them all the way. Really makes a big difference. Now, let me ask you this: in your lease-up process, have you learned? And I'm going for something here. I'm just curious. I'm sure you've picked up on this, but in your lease-up process, tell me what you go through with what your people go through with a prospective tenant.
Sure. Are you asking in terms of what they're looking for a prospective?
No. I'm
tenant?
really asking: do you go through a process when you move somebody in?
In terms of like a welcoming,
yes,
they've signed the lease.
Yes,
absolutely, and I feel it's something we do very well, and it's something that we need to continue to hone and improve on. I think that welcome packets when a tenant moves into the apartment, they sell these little gift baskets. Some of these various property management warehouses and things like that. I think we use Peachtree. They're based out of Georgia, but you can buy these welcome packets that have snacks or household goods for $5 or $10.
Well, where I
a lot more than that, but
where I was going with this was, in my experience and my management experience, I found that if you take the time to sit with the tenant, tell them how valuable they are to you, and that you really want them to be happy, and then tell them what you expect from them, and that I have to, we've got bills, so the rent has to be paid. This is how we handle maintenance, and we are here for you, and we want to help you. And you just take the time, not just to have them sign the lease and move in, but take the time to have a 20 to 30-minute conversation about what you expect, what they can expect from you, how valuable they are to you, what concerns them matters. It's such a huge positive step towards that relationship. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I think that if you show them that you value them as human beings and that they're not just another tenant, they're just not another paycheck, when times do get tough, they're going to think twice about trying to stiff you on the rent.
Right.
They're going to, we had it recently where a tenant was evicted. They lost their job, fell in some hard times, but they moved out of the area and they called me to settle their account. And it was $1,200 and I settled for $800. But I don't think I would have ever gotten that phone call had I been a jerk throughout the process. I mean, even if we get to a tough situation like an eviction, we still try to treat everybody with dignity and respect that they deserve, and the same dignity and respect that we would want in return. So if we treat them fairly, chances, we might be putting you out, or you might be moving out under less than desirable circumstances, but you're not going to trash my apartment. There's some sort of relationship there where it's they're not our best friend, but it's a professional relationship where there's mutual respect. I think you get a lot.
Makes a huge difference. It makes
Absolutely.
a huge difference, and I can tell you, I've been on both sides. I've been on both scenarios there where people have been vindictive in some of my D properties, and and just destroyed a property because they really didn't care and they knew there wasn't anything you could do about it versus, you shake hands and you move on. You realize things happen. I mean, obviously, you're very, very responsive. And I recommend, those of you listening, if when you fix something for one of your residents or have it fixed, call them back and ask them if they're happy with it. Because, again, resident satisfaction is everything. Do you do that, Jason?
I do. And now, admittedly, I don't call every single tenant back when something goes wrong. With 400 units.
No, but I
always,
mean, your people, it's so great to have a follow-up system in place. And talking about some management techniques here. And because your maintenance guy could have just really pissed them off, frankly, and they may not be happy. And you need to be on top of what's happening in your units. And they might be unhappy because you fixed one thing and didn't fix another, or there's so many things that can happen. And that's why that follow-up phone call can be so important. Would you agree?
No, you're so right. Absolutely. Yeah. You're so right. I hired one of our maintenance guys as the maintenance manager. And so everything gets streamlined through this individual. And we have a property management tracking software that all the maintenance.
What do you use, by the way?
Get entered to. Currently, so we just switched over to PropertyWare, which I love. We looked at that in AppFolio. I was with Yardi for about 10 years.
Yeah, I'm still with Yardi, but so you like PropertyWare? I've heard of them. Okay, good.
I do.
Okay.
And what I like about them is the mobile capability. As I've been told by my lovely wife and some of my friends, you need to relax and sort of be able to turn it off. So if I take a vacation, I can still get a snapshot of what's going on in my business from my smartphone.
Love it.
And so for me, it's important to, if I physically call back every tenant and try to write down everything, that you're just going to drive yourself nuts, and you can't scale effectively if you're still trying to do it all yourself. So our maintenance manager tracks everything that comes in, enters it into the system. The status of the task, is it initiated, complete? So we look at time from the phone call or the text to completion of the task, and then somebody
you measure that, which is very important. That's called a KPI, guys, a key performance indicator. And there are lots of things in your business that you should measure, and that would be a great example of one. How quick does a call get answered? How quick does their problem get resolved? Those are KPIs, and when you get into real estate investing, you're no longer an employee, you're a business owner, and you have to measure. You have to measure when you're marketing and looking for deals. You have to measure what's working, what's not working, and those are all called KPIs. Anyway, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no problem. So all of our, be it the property managers or maintenance guys, if they are in contact with the tenant at the property, say, fixing a leaky faucet or something of that nature, there has to be some sort of follow-up. If the tenant is not there, they leave a door tag or a handwritten note, thanking them for their business and explaining to them what occurred. And typically, I make a handful of phone calls a week where I personally check in with the tenants to make sure that we met their expectations.
Great.
We're very busy running a business, but I think it's very important that
it keeps your finger on the pulse. Even if
Absolutely.
It's macro, even if it's just 1 out of 10, it keeps your finger on the pulse. You trust, but you verify. You even when you've got supervision, somebody needs to be watching them. It goes down the chain. So that's great. So tell me about your team now. You've got 400 units. What does your team look like? How many employees or people that work in your group?
Sure. So we have a full-time bookkeeper who handles all the incoming bills. Mm-hmm. We have a full-time salaried property manager that essentially leases the apartments, handles any.
So they handle all your leasing too. Okay, so they double as your leasing agent. Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So pretty much the leasing agent, and then we have a maintenance manager that is a working maintenance manager. So he's
out there working too. He's not just supervising. Good.
Absolutely, and for that I hired somebody with some corporate experience. He worked at Hilton. I thought it was very important that they understand that what needs done in a larger company, and some of those.
Well, then he's probably got some HVAC experience as well, which can be extremely valuable. That can be a real money suck if you have to hire that out every time. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, we try to do everything that we can. Everything that doesn't require a permit should be kept in house. So
Absolutely.
We have 7 full-time maintenance guys. Now that ranges from your highly skilled that can that can do everything to, a couple guys that they're good at cleaning, painting, and landscaping. But we try to provide an avenue for these guys, if they're willing, to kind of run up the income scale. They, you might have started as a lawnmower, but in 5 years you could be a full-fledged maintenance guy, and they, hopefully provide a career and some progression for some of these guys as well.
So how many actual maintenance guys? Because 7 is a lot for 400 units. How many actual that are doing maintenance versus make-ready guys?
Oh, okay, so the actual maintenance would be.
I'm sorry, you broke up. How many?
I'm sorry, three maintenance guys.
Okay, now that makes sense. Now that's a good note. And then you've got some guys that do the the turnover, and that's what you have to have, guys. You got to have people that go and touch up the paint, clean up, clean the appliances, clean the windows, and and then you occasionally have to do new flooring or certainly clean the flooring. So, are you fairly well geographically located? So you're not running an hour one direction, an hour another direction. Are you fairly centralized in your portfolio, or are you mixed? Are you spread out pretty good?
It's Erie's a small city, so we have the majority of our properties are in the city of Erie, within a 3 to 5 mile radius of each other. Now we have we're growing in an area south of Erie, which is a college town, but it's literally 18 miles away. So if our guys have to go down there, they grab a cup of coffee. It takes about 25 minutes.
No big
deal.
No, that's no big deal. I mean, I had houses 2 hours and apartments 2 hours one way and 2 hours the other way, and I get a headache thinking about it again. But anyway, so that's great. That's great. That absolutely makes sense. Well, listen, I want you to speak to those of my listeners that haven't gotten going yet, haven't bought their first duplex or fourplex. Talk to them. I
think the biggest piece of advice, I tell this to anybody that will listen, is you just need to take action. Just do it.
Right.
It's a big, scary step, but you can only learn and be successful by first doing it. I see so many people that they're still analyzing that deal that they looked at 3 years ago, and it's already changed hands 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And so paralysis analysis is a psyche killer. It's a deal killer. I mean, you have to be good with the numbers, but trust your gut. I know you speak to this in a lot of your episodes. Trust your instincts. Go with your intuition, but just pull the trigger, because what's on the other side of that decision?
What's on the other side is $14.5 million worth of real estate and 400 units on your own. I'm applauding. And guys, I hope you're getting this. This is doable. And what else happens is when you buy that first property, you don't have any confidence, you're fearful, everything else. When you buy that first property, that confidence builds so much. Okay? The second one is much easier. The third one is even easier. Okay, so I'm telling you, would you agree with me, Jason?
Absolutely, and deals that you once thought were unachievable become just like old habits.
No big deal, and it just gets easier and easier when you realize it's just a formula. It's just doing it, and so you heard it, guys. Just do it, like Nike says. You just read books, and that's how you did it. And I know you talked about mentors. I talk about the value of mentors. Highly recommend that you do that. And now I'm going to ask you the question I ask most of my guests, and that is, what drives you? What makes you jump out of bed? What makes you keep going when you literally could retire already?
Sure. I think a few things drive me. I mean, family, friends, trying to be the best version of myself that I can be. But I think our city has a really big problem with blight. We're in the Midwest, dying factory town that is trying to reinvent itself. So when I look at what's going on out there in our local market, there's a big need for quality housing, and there's a lot of bad owner operators. There's a lot of bad landlords out there, and if we can provide the best quality housing at an affordable price, that, at least if I'm doing my little part that I can to help improve the city, then I feel good about it, even on those tough days when, we're getting beat up by customers and getting beat up by suppliers and everything else.
Sure. Most of the time tenants don't call you to tell you how much they love you. They will call because they need something fixed or they're unhappy. And that's just the business. But again, you can't get beat up. I just brushed against the mic because I was looking at my map to see where Erie is. And you guys are right on the lake there. That's probably freezing your butt off up there.
Smack dab between Cleveland and Buffalo, so about an hour and a half from each of them. So summers are beautiful, but winters are tough, and that's just an old blue collar manufacturing town, but a wonderful place to live. And And
sounds like it's a great real estate opportunity too, and there's a great opportunity. And I love where your heart's at. You're coming at this from the right place. You come at this from helping other people find quality housing and get them out of some of the slumlord stuff that you're describing up there. Then it's not just money. Then it's not just achievement. It's fulfillment, like you guys have heard me talk about many, many times. Any book you'd recommend? Anything that you're loving right now?
Sure. One of the books that I love and I kind of come back to every couple of years is the Compound Effect by Darren Hardy.
Oh yeah.
He used to be the publisher of Success Magazine, and he wrote a new book called The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster, which is sort of not really a how-to, but a mindset for any entrepreneur, any business owner. So I really
Compound Effect and the Entrepreneur Roller Coaster. Yeah, I've seen him speak. He's a dynamic guy. That's awesome. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
And I love the ideas that they put forth in the Compound Effect. It's just those little daily decisions that make all the difference in the world. So,
that's like the slight edge. That's just like the slight edge.
Yep.
Then. Okay, so how,
exactly
and then basically it speaks about the impact of small decisions, and you make small little decisions every day. They compound. I guess that must be there you go. It's like the slight edge. It's same principle. Awesome. Jason, thank you so much. I really appreciate your valuable time, and you've added a ton of value. I can't wait to see where you're at in a couple of years, so we're definitely going to stay in touch.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it, Rod.
Thank you for listening to the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe. And then take a moment to visit iTunes and leave a 5-star rating and review. For more resources to connect with us further, please visit our website at lifetimecashflowpodcast.com. Tune in next week for our next show.